Ladies and gentlemen, imagine standing at the edge of your dreams, knowing exactly what you want, but feeling completely unprepared, unsure, and terrified. What if I told you that the very thing you're waiting for, confidence, is not something you find before you start, but something you build asterisk after asterisk, you take that first step? Today, I'm going to show you why waiting is the enemy of progress, why action is the only path forward, and how starting before you're ready will transform your fear into unstoppable momentum. Are you ready to discover the power you've been holding back? Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to stop for a moment and think about the last time you hesitated because you didn't feel ready. Maybe it was a project, a conversation, a decision, or even a dream you wanted to pursue. You waited for the perfect moment, for the right amount of knowledge, the ideal conditions, the feeling of confidence that never quite arrived. And yet, here's the truth. Confidence almost never comes first. Confidence is something that grows, something that emerges as you act, not before. We live in a world that constantly tells us we need to be ready, that preparation is the prerequisite for success. But what happens when we let readiness dictate our actions? Nothing. We stay stuck in our comfort zones, waiting for some invisible signal that may never arrive. The reality is this: the moment you start before you're ready is the moment your growth begins. Action creates clarity. Action creates confidence. Waiting only delays the inevitable learning that comes from doing. Think about every great innovator, every leader, every entrepreneur you admire. None of them woke up fully confident in the first step they were about to take. They didn't wait until the stars aligned or until they felt entirely equipped. They took the first step with imperfect knowledge, with uncertainty, and with fear, because they understood a simple truth: clarity and courage are built by moving forward, not by standing still. Starting before you're ready is uncomfortable. It's scary. It forces you to confront your doubts head on. But that discomfort is exactly what transforms you. Each step you take, even the ones that feel small or awkward, begins to accumulate into competence. Each attempt, each misstep, each moment of vulnerability is what builds your confidence. You learn by doing. You grow by engaging with reality. You find out what works and what doesn't by taking action, not by endlessly planning in your head. The paradox of confidence is this: the more you wait for it, the more elusive it becomes. Confidence is not a prerequisite, it's a consequence. It's something you earn through experience, by showing up, by taking risks, by being willing to look foolish and to learn. Every time you move forward despite uncertainty, you reinforce a belief in yourself that cannot be taught or handed to you. That belief grows stronger with every challenge you face and every problem you solve. You may be thinking, but I need more preparation, I need more skills, I need more validation. And yes, preparation matters, skills matter, feedback matters, but waiting for all of it before starting is a trap. It creates a cycle where readiness is an illusion you chase endlessly while life passes you by. Action, even imperfect action, breaks that cycle. Action reveals what you are capable of, and in that revelation, confidence is born. Imagine if you had started earlier, if you had taken that first step when the fear was present, when the doubt was strong, when the conditions were imperfect. You would have learned, adapted, and grown far sooner. Every delay costs you time, energy, and momentum. Every moment you hesitate, you defer the very confidence you are seeking. So the key is to embrace the uncertainty, to take the first step without guarantee, to move before you feel fully ready. Confidence is not a prerequisite, it is a byproduct of action. The courage to begin is what creates the certainty you are longing for. Start now, imperfectly, hesitantly, with fear in your chest, and watch as confidence finds you along the way. The world rewards those who start, not those who wait. It rewards those who act, who risk, who fail forward, and who learn from the process. Your readiness will arrive through experience, through commitment, and through the simple act of saying, "I will start even if I am not ready yet." And when you do, you'll discover that confidence, the thing you thought you needed before you could begin, has been quietly growing inside you all along. And here's something even more important to understand. Starting before you're ready doesn't just build confidence, it transforms your mindset entirely. When you act in the face of uncertainty, you are telling yourself something powerful. Asterisk, I am capable of more than I thought I was. Asterisk, every time you confront that discomfort and push forward, you rewire the way you see challenges. They no longer paralyze you, they become opportunities for growth, lessons waiting to be learned, steps on a path that is uniquely yours. Too many of us spend our lives chasing the illusion of certainty, thinking that confidence is something we can summon by waiting for the perfect circumstances. But life is not designed to hand you perfection. Life hands you moments and it asks you to choose, will you act or will you wait? The truth is, waiting for readiness is a luxury few can afford, and the longer you wait, the more distant your goals seem. Action, even imperfect action, shrinks that distance. It bridges the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Think about what happens when you start before you feel ready. You encounter problems you didn't anticipate, challenges you didn't plan for, and questions you didn't know existed. And each of these moments is a teacher. Each failure, each hesitation, each moment of doubt is a lesson in resilience. You learn to adapt, you learn to pivot, you learn to trust yourself. This is where real confidence comes from, not from waiting for the perfect moment, but from surviving, learning, and thriving in the imperfect one. There is also something contagious about starting before you're ready. When you take that first step, others see it. They feel the courage in your movement, and very often that action inspires someone else to move, to step forward into their own uncertainty. Confidence in this way is not just personal, it radiates outward. By starting now, you create a ripple effect of courage and momentum that extends far beyond yourself. The small act of beginning, done repeatedly, becomes the foundation of leadership. It's natural to feel fear when you start before you're ready. Fear is not a signal to stop. It's a sign that you are on the edge of growth. The very presence of fear indicates that you are stepping into new territory, that you are challenging your limitations, that you are pushing yourself beyond the familiar. Every time you take action despite fear, you weaken its hold over you. Every time you move forward without all the answers, you gain evidence that you can handle uncertainty, that you can navigate complexity, and that you can succeed even when conditions are far from ideal. And let's not confuse starting before you're ready with reckless action. This is not about blindly jumping without thought or preparation. It's about moving with the resources, knowledge, and skills you have right now. It's about acknowledging that you don't have all the answers, that mistakes will happen, and that growth comes from engaging with reality rather than avoiding it. By starting now, you give yourself the opportunity to iterate, improve, and evolve in ways you never could have imagined if you waited for readiness to magically appear. The paradox is beautiful. The very act of beginning creates the readiness you thought you lacked. Confidence does not arrive fully formed, it emerges through doing. You may start small, one conversation, one experiment, one step toward a goal, and gradually, through repeated action, confidence solidifies. You discover your strengths, you uncover your potential, you learn that you are far more capable than you gave yourself credit for. And the fear that once held you back, it becomes a fuel, not a barrier. So, consider this your invitation to act. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready. Now. The readiness you are waiting for is something that will only come through movement, through courage, through showing up even when you doubt yourself. Each small step taken consistently compounds into momentum. Each moment of discomfort, embraced and endured, transforms into growth. Each act of courage taken despite fear builds the foundation of confidence you have been seeking. When you choose to start before you're ready, you stop waiting for permission from yourself, from others, from circumstances, and you reclaim your power. You discover that action is not just the path to results, action is the path to belief. And the confidence you thought you needed to begin is, in reality, waiting for you to create it, step by step, choice by choice, moment by moment. Every single day presents you with opportunities to begin, to move, to act. And in taking those steps before you feel fully ready, you are not just building confidence, you are shaping the person you are becoming. You are transforming potential into reality, uncertainty into clarity, and fear into courage. And that transformation is the most powerful form of learning, growth, and fulfillment you will ever experience. And as you continue on this path, you begin to notice something remarkable. The world responds to those who act before they feel ready. Opportunities seem to appear in ways that were invisible when you were waiting. Doors open because you showed up. Connections are made because you reached out. Problems are solved because you dared to engage with them rather than avoid them. Action has a magnetic quality. It draws momentum, resources, and possibilities toward those who refuse to remain idle. Waiting for readiness may feel safe, but it rarely invites progress. Starting, even imperfectly, is what activates the current of life that can carry you further than planning ever could. The lessons you learn in the midst of starting are irreplaceable. No amount of study or observation can replicate the knowledge gained from experience. When you step into a situation without full confidence, you confront reality in its raw form. You are forced to make decisions, adjust to feedback, and solve problems as they arise. These moments of challenge are the crucibles in which skill, resilience, and courage are forged. The confidence that emerges from this process is authentic, earned and unshakable, because it is grounded in the reality that you have already acted, even when it was uncomfortable. One of the most powerful aspects of beginning before you're ready is how it reshapes your relationship with fear. Fear is not the enemy. Fear is the signal that you are stepping into growth. Every time you act despite fear, you rewrite the narrative in your mind. Instead of seeing fear as a reason to retreat, you see it as a companion on the path to development. Each courageous step reduces the power that fear holds over you, teaching you that you are stronger than your doubts and more capable than your anxieties suggest. Fear becomes a teacher rather than a jailer, and your confidence expands as a direct result. Starting early also changes how you define failure. When you act before you feel ready, mistakes are inevitable, but these mistakes are no longer paralyzing. They become data, feedback, and evidence of growth. Every misstep carries insight into what works, what doesn't, and how to improve. When you embrace the mindset that failure is a natural part of starting, you remove the fear that keeps most people immobilized. Confidence grows not from perfection, but from the courage to continue despite imperfection. Every step taken, no matter how flawed, is a victory because it moves you forward and teaches you lessons that waiting never could. Consider the ripple effect of your actions. When you begin without waiting for readiness, you inspire others, even unintentionally. Courage is contagious. The act of showing up, of taking initiative in uncertainty, demonstrates to those around you that they too can move forward despite fear. Your confidence, built through action, becomes a model for others to follow. You begin to see that the courage to act is not just personal, it is transformational. It impacts your environment, your relationships, and even your community. It's important to understand that starting before you're ready is not a reckless disregard for preparation. It's about acknowledging that you have enough now to begin, even as you continue to learn, grow, and refine along the way. Perfectionism is the enemy of progress, and waiting for readiness often disguises procrastination as prudence. By starting now, you give yourself permission to experiment, iterate, and adapt. Each iteration builds competence. Each adjustment reinforces confidence. Each small success compounds, making the next step easier and more assured than the last. Momentum is another critical outcome of starting early. Once you take action, even in small ways, you begin to create forward motion. And momentum has a power all its own. It reduces fear, sharpens focus, and attracts opportunities. The very act of moving signals to your mind and the world that you are committed, capable, and engaged. Waiting for readiness produces stagnation. Acting before you feel ready produces progress, learning, and growth that is visible and tangible. And there is an internal shift that happens when you adopt this mindset consistently. You begin to trust yourself. You realize that you can navigate uncertainty, solve problems on the fly, and grow stronger with each step. You stop relying on external validation to give you courage. Confidence no longer comes from a checklist of conditions being met. It comes from the knowledge that you can act, adapt, and persist regardless of the circumstances. This is true empowerment, and it is built exclusively through action. So, every day that you take the first step despite hesitation, that you speak up despite doubt, that you engage with the unknown despite fear, you are constructing the foundation of your confidence. Each small act of courage is a brick in the structure of your future. You are proving to yourself and to the world that readiness is not a prerequisite. It is a byproduct of doing. By starting now imperfectly and consistently, you set in motion a journey in which confidence, skill, and clarity are no longer distant hopes, but inevitable outcomes of the path you have chosen to walk. And as you continue to move forward, you start to realize that starting before you're ready is not just about building confidence. It is about creating a new relationship with time, with opportunity, and with yourself. When you wait for readiness, you are essentially postponing your life, holding yourself hostage to conditions that may never exist. But when you act now, you reclaim your agency, you take control of the narrative. You demonstrate to yourself and to the world that your growth does not require permission, and your progress does not depend on perfection. Action becomes the catalyst for everything else you want to achieve. Every step you take before you feel ready is a declaration. You are capable, you are willing, and you are committed. This declaration echoes louder than any plan ever could, because it is backed by movement, by doing, by the courage to confront uncertainty. Confidence does not announce itself in the absence of action. It emerges quietly, step by step, moment by moment, as a consequence of persistence. The more you act despite doubt, the stronger that confidence becomes, and with each act, fear loses a little more of its grip. One of the most overlooked aspects of starting early is the perspective it gives you on mistakes. When you start before you feel ready, mistakes are inevitable, yes, but they are no longer catastrophic. They are informative. They teach you how to adapt, how to pivot, and how to approach challenges with agility. You discover that failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the process. Each misstep becomes a teacher, each challenge an opportunity to refine your approach, and each moment of uncertainty a chance to prove to yourself that you are more capable than you imagined. Starting before you're ready also accelerates your learning. Knowledge gained from books, courses, or observation is important, but it is passive. Real learning happens when you are in the arena, when you are confronted with real life consequences, when you have to think on your feet and make decisions in imperfect conditions. Every time you start without waiting for readiness, you are entering that arena. You are acquiring skills, insights, and resilience that no preparation alone could provide. And as your competence grows, so too does your confidence, organically and powerfully. Momentum is another critical benefit that emerges from early action. When you take the first step, the second step becomes easier. Each subsequent step builds upon the last. Movement generates energy, and energy fuels progress. Waiting for readiness produces stillness. Action produces motion. And motion creates results. It attracts resources, opportunities, and collaborators who respond to your initiative. The world rewards those who act, not those who wait. Every small step you take compounds, and over time, what once seemed daunting begins to feel achievable, natural, and inevitable. There is also a profound internal transformation that occurs when you embrace starting before you're ready. You begin to trust yourself in ways you never could if you remained in preparation mode. You learn that you can handle uncertainty, that you can solve problems, and that you can adapt to challenges as they arise. You realize that you don't need to wait for confidence to act. You create confidence by acting. This self-trust is invaluable. It becomes a foundation upon which you can build everything else: resilience, determination, creativity, and leadership. And in this process, fear takes on a new role. Fear no longer paralyzes, it signals growth. It marks the edge of your comfort zone, highlighting where you have the opportunity to expand. Each time you act in spite of fear, it diminishes in power. You begin to see fear not as a barrier, but as a compass pointing toward the areas where you can stretch and develop. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is moving forward in its presence, and confidence is the natural byproduct of repeated courageous action. Starting before you're ready also teaches humility and curiosity. When you act without all the answers, you are forced to ask questions, seek feedback, and engage with others. You discover that you don't need to have it all figured out to make progress, you need only to be willing to learn and adjust along the way. This mindset opens doors, fosters relationships, and accelerates your growth in ways that waiting never could. And finally, every action you take becomes evidence of possibility. Each step taken before readiness proves to yourself that you can move through uncertainty and emerge stronger, wiser, and more capable. You begin to realize that the confidence you thought you needed to start was already within you. It simply needed to be activated through doing. By starting now, by taking imperfect, courageous steps, you create a cycle of momentum, learning, and self-belief that propels you forward, shaping not only your actions but your identity, your mindset, and the life you are capable of building. The act of starting, even before you feel ready, is a declaration that your life will not wait, that your growth will not wait, and that your dreams will not wait. Each step builds confidence, each challenge strengthens resilience, and each moment of uncertainty becomes a proving ground for your courage. And as you continue to act, you discover that the very thing you thought you needed to begin confidence arrives naturally, quietly, and powerfully, forged by the simple yet profound act of starting.